You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
I'm Stephen Cabral, and today on our Total Wellness Tuesday, I'm going to take a little turn off the regular beaten path today, the path that you talk about and you hear about a lot with, why am I gaining weight? And most people are saying, oh, well, you're gaining weight because you're eating too much, you're not exercising enough. Or why aren't you well right now? Well, you're not well because, again, you weren't eating the proper foods, you weren't exercising, there's too much stress in your life. I completely agree with all of those things. Completely agree. Like, those things can cause weight gain and they can cause you to be unwell. But there's another thing that we're not looking at. And I honestly believe until we look at this one particular toxin in our life, which I'm going to talk about right now, that we cannot truly heal our bodies. And I'm going to go into just a little bit of the science, but really just make it really approachable for all of us. And I think by the end of this show, you're going to understand why I feel it's so important that people don't just look about calories in, calories out, and they don't just look at exercise, they don't just look at stress, they look at the whole total picture. And that's this, that right now, literally over 77,000, that's the minimum, over 77,000 man-made chemicals, these are toxins, poisons, are in the environment, that these are created by man. These are created by companies. Literally, they're legal. Like, the U.S. government allows this to happen. Now, this is for all countries. However, they're much more cautious in Europe. It's over 10,000, which is still an enormous amount, right? This is in the water supply, it's in the soil, it's in the air. But in the U.S., it's probably over 100,000 now. We just don't find out about it for another year or 2 years. But the minimum is right now 77,000. And what are these toxins? Well, they're toxins in plastic. They're toxins in our water supply. They're heavy metals even in the air right now as little particles that we breathe in. They are flame retardants that every time you sit on typically a leather seat or like even an airplane seat, there are these flame retardants that get absorbed through the skin. So keep in mind, your skin is porous, which means this, that has tiny little holes, and it allows stuff from the outside to be actually absorbed directly through your skin and into your bloodstream. Now, this could be a good thing if we're putting like magnesium oil or something like that on it, or even like swimming in the saltwater ocean. But what happens is when we put on cosmetics or makeup or moisturizers or SPFs or shampoo or conditioner, if these things aren't all natural as well, these things come directly through the scalp, through the skin, and into your bloodstream. And a lot of these are known cancer-causing chemicals. Like the majority that I just said, 77,000, the vast majority of those cause cancer. And we're wondering every single day, why are cancer rates going up? Why have cancer rates doubled and tripled and quadrupled and 100x'd? Why are all these things happening? You really don't have to look too much further than the poison of our water supply, the poison of our food supply, and the poison of the air. We literally swim and breathe in toxins all day long. There's chlorine being pumped out of the faucets. And again, those are great for killing, microbes in water, but we're not supposed to ingest that. And we're certainly not supposed to be bathing in it. And those are the least harmful. I mean, I'm talking about like real plastics and things like that are always in our water, that are always in our moisturizers, those specific types of things. These things are literally killing us. But I also want to talk about this, that toxic water weight, like a lot of people right now are feeling puffy and swollen and bloated. I hear that all the time in my practice. And when we start to go through a protocol, which I'm going to talk about, people say literally all the time, this is the quote, I feel like someone put a pin in me, or I feel like someone just deflated me, because all of this puffiness, all of this water weight, I call it toxic water weight, is just making our cells literally swell. So I want to go through like, how does that actually happen? Well, what happens is, let's say we take in toxins through the water, or we take in toxins through food, or we take in toxins because we just put on a little bit of moisturizer or whatever it might be. Or makeup is a huge one for women. I mean, there's over 300 chemicals in all the typical makeup that people put on before they even leave the house. It's amazing because there's dozens of chemicals and preservatives in each product. So this is the thing. When all that stuff goes into the bloodstream, okay? So when it goes into your bloodstream, your liver, which is that organ under the right side of your rib cage, it's like I call it the car filter. So like you're driving down the highway, all the pollutants and everything is coming through that filter and it's trying to catch all of them so you don't breathe it in. Well, that's what your liver does. Your liver is sucking everything into it, essentially, trying to clean it, filter it, and then the good stuff, the clean stuff comes back out. Well, what happens is that, it has thousands of ducts and it gets to do some cleaning with what's called phase 1 and phase 2 liver detox. All it means is it takes these harmful fat-soluble toxins and then it turns them into a harmless water-soluble toxin that you can pee out or poop out or sweat out. And that's a nice little way that our body detoxifies. And yes, it tries to do that every single second of the day, but it can't keep up. Like, never was man intended to deal with the onslaught of man-made chemicals. Like, that just wasn't in the cards for our genetics. And now what's happening is all of that stuff, a lot of it's still being left in our bloodstream. Well, your body knows that it can't have poisons in the bloodstream. So what it does is actually pulls those toxins into adipose tissue. Now, what is that? Adipose tissue is just a fancy name, a medical name for fat cells. Okay, so your fat tissues, your fat cells. Now, your fat cells, those are kind of predetermined. They're at birth. Yes, there's some debate about can you grow more or not. But what happens is the fat cells you do have, they pull the toxins in, the poisons in. They do that to save the bloodstream, right? Because they'll pull them into the fat stores and they'll keep them out of your blood so your blood stays cleaner. But what happens is your fat cells, they start to swell. Right? They start to swell with these water and these chemicals because as the chemicals come in, the water comes in as well. The water actually transports them. And this is what I call toxic water weight. Your body is feeling swollen because it is. It's literally holding on to all of this excess water, toxic water weight, because the water is literally pulling the toxins in through osmosis through the cell as well. And it's holding it there so that your blood stays cleaner. And we know this because we know that fat is about 300 times more toxic than your blood. And why? Because your blood is staying clean, yes. That's because your fat cells are holding these toxins away from your blood. They're literally storing them. So when you start to oxidize body fat, these toxins then come into the bloodstream. Now, that shouldn't scare you, but it does mean, and this is why I get so passionate about detoxification, it is the answer. It's literally the answer. It's why people can lose 5 to 10 pounds in 7 days on something like the Dr. Cabral Detox. And again, you can use any detoxification program you want. Just make sure it has all the stuff that I've recommended in the past. The phase 1 and the phase 2 liver detoxifiers, which are B vitamins, vitamin C, your sulfur-based amino acids. And make sure that you're also having at least 1 bowel movement to 2 bowel movements per day. So you get this stuff moving out of your body. Make sure you're sweating. This is all really important. But the truth is that it's really simple and straightforward to do. And when you live in this type of toxic environment, you have to do it. But again, that's why it's not uncommon to lose 5 to 10 pounds in a week. 10 pounds to 15 pounds in 2 weeks and 15 or more pounds in 3 weeks. And again, it does depend on how much weight you have to lose in the first place. Like if you don't have 15 pounds to lose or you only have 15 and 20, you might not lose 15 in 3 weeks, but your body will be so much healthier and you're going to lose at least 10. You're going to feel fantastic. And that's because your body is removing all of this toxic waste. So what happens when you remove the toxic waste? Well, you don't need to hold on to all the water weight. So your body naturally just gets rid of all this water. Now, this isn't healthy water. Remember, our bodies are about 2/3 or so water, but the excess water weight is what I'm talking about. The water that keeps your body hydrated, we keep that, right? We have lots of water coming in on something like a detox. But for toxic water weight, that toxic water leaves once the toxins leave because there's no need for it to be there. Plus, as you're detoxifying, as these fat cells are being oxidized, you want to make sure that you have enough support for your liver to be able to now clean and detoxify these toxins. And again, that's just making sure you're getting in enough of your specific vitamins, amino acids, and all that good stuff that you don't even need to know about. That's why I don't want to explain it right now. You just simply do it and your body takes care of it as long as it's given the support. Why do I say that the nutritional supplements are so important? It's this. is that if we're going to have to fight off 77,000 man-made chemicals, you better believe you get a little extra nutritional support, because your body, again, like we talked about before, isn't equipped to do that, or it would not have put those toxins into the fat cells in the first place. Now, of course, you could be getting healthier over the years, and I completely agree with that as well. And I don't believe that you need to be doing a detox every single day of your life, but you do need to make sure good nutrition is coming in every single day. And for that specific time, as you're losing a lot of body fat and this toxic water weight up front, you of course want that nutritional support. And again, you always should do what you feel is best for your body. And if you don't feel my protocol is the best for you, that's okay as well. I'm going to teach you either way. And the reason that I'm so passionate about it and adamant about it is that I believe, and honestly believe, it's the absolute best thing you could do in the world. And I formulate it that way. I could formulate it any way that I want. I put the most amount of money into it that I think anyone's ever put into a nutritional supplement. It certainly costs the most for the raw materials, and it's going to help you get healthy. And the other thing is too, it's 100% guaranteed, meaning like it is a 365-day guarantee. I don't know anyone else that does that, literally. And that means that even if you don't like it a year from now, you can still return it. That's how like one-sided I made this as well. But again, my podcast and anything else I do is never to self-promote or anything to do like that. It's always to educate. It's always to teach. You can even just go to my website, look at it, look at the ingredients, just say, oh, well, I could do this, this, and this, and you can try it. Absolutely. There's no issues with that as well, at all. But what I want you to remember today is that one of the reasons that we're feeling so bloated, so swollen, so puffy is that we cannot help it. No matter where we go, we're being pulled into all of these toxins around us. Literally, there's pesticides on people's grass. There's pesticides on our food. There's plastics in our water. There's even pharmaceuticals in our water and tap water that they found over and over, antidepressants in tap water. So again, my job isn't to scare you as well. It's just to let you know what we're up against, what we have to deal with. And really together, we need to figure this out. Meaning like we need to be able to eat healthier. We need to be able to detoxify. But also I really think that we need to start supporting more of our local farmers or organic farmers that aren't using these types of sprays, because not only is it then not on our food, but it's not in the soil, which isn't then running into the water, and it's also not in the air. So much of it really does start with our food. And that's the biggest thing. Like if you can't afford to do nutritional supplements or anything like that, and again, even though they're only usually a couple dollars a day, and a detox typically costs less than a week's worth of food, like so it's a trade-off. You actually typically save money, or it's just the same amount of money for the week. I do want you to remember that if you start with food, if you start to make sure that you eat the organic foods that are sprayed the most, that you can't wash off, that's the best place to start. So I'm going to keep it at that for today. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. Love to hear your feedback as well on if you've ever heard about this thing before called endotoxins or environmental toxins, and how they actually create our body as well, because to be honest, no one's talking about it. And if they're not talking about it, these are things that we need to start bringing up and talking to each other and telling each other as well. So if you believe this episode, again, could help anyone you know, please do feel free to forward it to others. What we're trying to do is create a movement here. We're trying to create a movement of just knowledge, of just letting people know that they have a choice. And if you have a choice and you vote with your dollars and you don't support the companies that are putting all these chemicals and toxins into food, well, believe it or not, they're going to have to change because no one's buying them. So once again, thank you for tuning into the Cabral Concept. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only two ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rainbarrel.